NCRT 6 का Chapter 6 Listen and improve your English communication skills. NCRT 6th class chapter New questions and ideas. I hope you like the lessons. Angad's school trip. This was the first time Angad was going in a school trip. They boarded the train from Pune in Maharashtra late the night to go all the way to Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh. Her mother, who came to see her off the station, told the teacher to tell the children about the Buddha and take them to see Sarnath as well. The story of Buddha. Siddhartha, also known as the Gautam, the founder of Buddhism, was born about 25 years ago. This was a time of rapid change in the lives of people. As is shown chapter 5, some kings and the Mahajanpad were growing more powerful, new cities were developing and life was changing. In the village as well, many thinkers were trying to understand these changes in societies. They also want to try and find out the true meanings of life. The Buddha belonged to a small Gan known as the Sakya Gan and was a Kshatri. When he was a young man, he left the comfort of his home. In search of knowledge, he wandered for several years, meaning and holding discussion with other thinkers. He finally decided to find his own path. To realizations and meditate for days, one and under people. Tree and both Gaya in Bihar, where he attained the alignment. After that, he was known as a Buddha or the wise one. That he then went to Sarnath near Varanasi, where the thought for the first time. He spent the rest of his life traveling on foot, going from place to place, teaching people till he passed away in Kushinaram. The Buddha thought that life is full for suffering, unhappiness. This is caused because we have craving and desire which often cannot be fulfilled. Sometimes even if we get what we want and we are not satisfied and want even more or want other things. The Buddha described this as a thirst and third. He thought that his consist. Carving could be removed by following moderations in everything. He also taught a people to be kind and to respect to the lives of others, including animals. He believed that a result of our actions called karma, whether good or bad, affect us both in this life and the next. The Buddha taught in the language of the ordinary pupils, Prakrit, so that everybody could understand. This message was a language used to compose with. He also encouraged people to think for themselves rather than to simplify as it what he said. Let us see how he did this. The story of Kisa. Here is a famous story about the Buddha. Once there was a woman named Kisa Gautami whose son has died. She was so sad that he roamed through the stresses of this city, carrying the child with her, asking for help to bring him back to life. A kind man took her to the Buddha. The Buddha said, "Bring to me handful of mustard seed, and I will bring your child back to life." Kisa Gautami was overjoyed and started off at once. But the Buddha greatly stopped her, added, "The seed must come from the house of family, where nobody has died." Kisa Gautami went from door to door, but whenever she found out what someone or other, fathers, mother, sister, brother, husband, wife, child, uncles, aunt, grandfather, and grandmother had died. What was the Buddha trying to teach us the sorrowing mother? Sixth school in Indian philosophy. Over centuries, Indian intellectual explorations of truth has come to be represented by 6 systems of philosophy. These are known as a Vaishakya, Nagya, Somakya, Yoga, and Purna, Nyakshan, Vedanta, Uttar Mimamsa. These 6 systems of philosophy are said to have been founded by Sage, Kannad, Gautama, Kapil, Patanjali, Jaimini, Veds. Respectively, these Philippines still guide Scholars in the countries of German-born British ideologists, Francis Max Muller has observed that the six systems of philosophy were developed over many generations with the contributions made by the individual thinker. However, today we find an underlying harmony in their understanding of truth, although they seem distant from each other's. Upanishad. Around the time, various other thinkers also tried to find answer. The philosophical questions some of them wanted to know about a life. After that, our other wanted to know why sacrifices should be performed. Many of these thinkers felt that there was something permanent in the universe that would last even after death. They describe this as the Atman or the individual souls and the Brahman or the universal soul. They believe that ultimately both the Atmas and the Brahmans were one. Many of these ideas were recorded in the Upanishad. These were part of the latest Vedic texts. Upanishad literally means approachings and settings. The wise beggar. Here is a dialogue based on the story of one of the most famous Upanishad, the Chandogya Upanishad. The Shakya Apnina were to the stages who worshipped the universal soul. One says, as I sat down to eat and beggar come, asked for some food, we cannot spare anything. If you should learn, sirs, whom do you worship? The beggar asked them. The universal soul, Apriya replied, it means that you know that universal soul fills the entire world. Yes, we know that the sage noted, if the universal soul filled the whole world, it filled to me too. Who I am, I but a part of the world. The beggar asked, you speak the truth, O young Brahmin. Then, O sage, by not giving the food, you are actually denying food in the universal soul. The sages realizes the truth of what a beggar said is share the food in them. Near and texts contain conversations between the teachers and student, often ideas were represented through the symbols of dialogues. Most Upanishad thinkers were men, especially Brahmins and raised occasionally. There is a mentions of women thinkers such as Gargi Apla, Ghoshla and Maitri, who were famous for their learnings and participate in debates. Poor people rarely took the part in these discussions. One famous expedition was Satyakarma Japla, who was named after this. His mother, the slave woman Japli, he had a deep desire to learn about a reality, was accepted as a student by the Brahmin teachers named Gautam and become one of the best known thinkers of the time. Many of the ideas of the Upanishad were later developed by the famous thinker Shankaracharya, about whom you will be reading in class 7th. Panini in the Grammar. There was also the time when other scholars were at work. One of the most famous was Panini, who prepared a grammar for Sanskrit. He arranged the vowels and consonants in a special order. Then he used those to create formula like those who found in algebra. He used these to write down the rules of the language in short formula. Jainism. The latter is 24th Tirthankar of the Jainism. Vardhaman Mahavira also spread his message. Around this time, 25 years ago, he was Kshatri, prince of the Lichabia group that was a part of the Vajrasangh, about which you read in chapter 5, the age of 30s. He left home, he went to live in a forest. For 12 years, he led a hard and lonely life, and the end of which is a enlightenment. He taught a simple doctrine, man and woman who wish to know the truth must live their homes. They must follow very strictly the rules of the Ashmas, which means not hurting or killing life beings. All beings shed Mahavira long to live to all things life is a dear. Ordinary people could understand the things of the Mahavira, and this followers because they used in Prakriti. There were several forms of Prakriti used in different parts of the country and named after the religion in which They were used, for example, the Prakrit spoken in Magadh was known as a Magdi. Followers of Mahavira, who were known as a Jainism, had to lead every simple lives beginning for food. They had to be absolutely honest and were specially asked not to steal also. They had to observe celibacy, and men had to give up everything including their clothes. It was very difficult for most men or women to follow these strict rules. There were thousands left their homes to learn and teach us this new way of life. Many more remained behind and supporting those who become a monk, and none of providing them with food. Jainism was supported mainly by traders farmers who had to kill insects to protect their crops. Found it more difficult to follow the rules over hundreds of years. Jainism spread to different parts of the North India into Gujarat, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. The teaching of Mahavira and his followers were transmitted orally. For several centuries, they were written down in the form in which they are presently available as place called the Vallavi in Gujarat about 15 years ago. See map. Both of the Mahavira and Buddhism felt that only those who left their homes could again true knowledge. They arranged for them to stay together in the Sangha association of those who left their homes. The rules made for the Buddhism Sangha was written down in a book called the Beggar. From this we know that there were separated branches for men and women. All men could join the Sangha. However, children had to take the permission of their parents and slaves, that of their masters. Those who worked for the king had to take the permission, and that of creators. Women had to take their husband permissions. Men and women who joined the Sangha left simple lives. They meditate for most of time and went off the cities and villages to beg for food during fixed hours. That is why they were known as a bhikshu. The Prakrit word is rerounded and bhikshu. They taught others and helped one another. They also held a meeting to the settlers any quarters that look placed within the Sangha. Those who joined the Sanghas, including the Brahmins, Kshatriya, merchant, laborers and barbers, the courtiers and slaves, many of them wrote down the teaching of the Buddhas. Some of them also composed beautiful poems and described their lives in the Sangha. List at least 2 ways in which the Sangha described in this lesson was different from the one mention of chapter 5. Were there any similarities? We are. To begin with, the Bodh and Jaina Buddhism monks went from the place to place, thought out the years teaching people. The only time they stays in one place was during the rainy seasons, when it was a very difficult to travel. Then their supporting built temporary shelter for them in gardens, or they lived in natural caves in hilly areas. As times went on, many supporters of the Bhikshu and the Bhikshanus themselves felt a feet net more the permanent shelter, and so monasteries were built. These were known as a vihar. The earliest vihar were made of the wood and then of bricks. Some were even in caves. A Buddhist just as the waters river lose their names and separatists. Very often the land on which the vihar was built was donated by rich merchant. Very often the land on which vihar was built was donated by rich merchant and landlord the king. The local pupils came with gift of the food, clothing and medicines for them. In return, they taught the pupils. Over the centuries, Buddhism spread to many parts of subcontinent and beyond. A new form of Buddhism known as Mahayana Buddhism now developed. This had to be distant features. Earliest the Buddha's presence was shown in sculpture by using certain signs. For the instance, his attainment of enlightenment was so by sculptures of the pupil trees. Now, statues of Buddhas were made. Many of these were made in Mathura, while others were made in Takshila. The second changes was belief in the Bodhisattva. These were supposed to be the person who had stage of life ashram. Ashram means stage of life. Four ashram were recognized: Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanprasth, and Sannyas. Brahmins, Kshatri, and Vaishya were accepted to lead a simple lives. The study was during the early years of life. Brahmacharya, then they had to marry and live in household grahastha. Then they had to live in forest and meditate. Vanprasth. Finally, they had to give up everything and become sannyas. The system of ashrams allow a person to spend some part of their lives in meditation. In what way was the system of ashram different from life in the sangha? Attain alignment was their attain the alignment they could live in complete isolation and meditate in peace. However, instead of doing that, they remained in the world to teach and help other people. The worship of Bodhisattva becomes very popular and spread throughout the Central Asia and China, later to the Korea and Japan. Buddhism spread to Western and Southern India, where dozens of caves were hollowed out of the hills of bhikshus to live in. Buddhism also spread southeastward to the Sri Lanka and Myanmar, Thailand, and there are other parts of Southwest Asia, including Indonesia. The oldest form of Buddhism, known as the Tibetan Buddhism, was more popular in this area. Are men and women who undertaken journeys to holy places in order to offer obscene. The best known as these are the Chinese Buddhism Peloponnesian, who came to the subcontinent about 16 years ago. Zhuan Xin, who was 14 years ago, and I King, who came about 50 years after Jinjan. They come to visit places associated with the life of the Buddha as well as the famous monasteries. Each of these pilgrims left an account of his journey. They wrote of the dangers they encounter or their travels, which often take years. The centuries and monasteries and they had visited and books they carries back to with them. Thank you for watching.